And welcome back. I know we missed last week, but we're back for another Fantasy Grounds Fridays. I am Bryce. I am streaming specialist at Smiteworks, and today I am joined by Jodi Black, COO and managing editor at Pinnacle Entertainment.
Hello, thank you for having me. This is exciting.
It is exciting. Thank you for being here and talking to us about, I presume, Savage Worlds and the other stuff at Pinnacle.
I mean, yeah, ask me anything. I've got my fingers in lots of pies, but yeah. We're here to talk about Savage Worlds especially and how that relates to Fantasy Grounds, I think. But, you know, if you've got any questions about upcoming releases or just anything, you know, pop that into the chat and Bryce will read that out.
Yep. Yeah, feel free. Any questions you have about Savage Worlds or Fantasy Grounds, feel free to ask. Can't guarantee all of them will have an answer, but we'll try our hardest.
I can always make stuff up.
Sure. Honestly, do it. That would be funny. All right. So, I think I'd like to start these. Can you get Game Pies Yum? Can you just give us? We'll start with just an introduction of you.
An introduction of Jodi. Okay. So I was the kind of person who grew up watching Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon on TV, but never clued in that was actually a game you could play. Sorry. Yes, I'm a real blonde. So
no, I'm just excited because I do remember watching that show.
But you probably figured out there was a game attached, and I don't know why I didn't figure that out. But apparently a lot of my friends played it. They just never invited me to it, including my best friend, and she doesn't get to live that down. But yeah, so it got to be college before I was invited to my first game of D&D. And it was actually my friends in the Lutheran student movement in college. And I had to beat those guys into submission before they'd let me play, because back then in the 90s, it was like, but you're a girl. So, you know, breaking some stereotypes, but we played the game. I fell in love immediately, and we ended up gaming like the entire fall break weekend. Like, we would sleep for like 6 hours from like 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'd get up and I'd go to work, and then I'd come back from work and we'd continue the campaign. Did not take a break the entire weekend. And then later my sorority sisters found out that I was playing a game called D&D. And they're like, oh, you like D&D? You need to go meet these people. So while Lutheran student movement got me into gaming eventually, but it was the sorority sisters who kept me involved in gaming. So how many people get to say that, right?
That's fun.
So thank you, Zeta Tau Alpha, and my grand big sis in particular. And that was how I met my husband, Clint Black, who also works with Pinnacle Entertainment Group. And it's just been history since. We started playing GURPS. Then from there, we found this little game called Deadlands. And then we started play testing for Savage Worlds in 2003, or before it came out in 2003. And then I started picking up some editing jobs for them because my background was in grant writing at that time. And I'm a real grammar Nazi person. So, like, I can't let it go. Sorry, it's a bad habit. So that's how I ended up where I am now, which is kind of majorly just kind of keeping an eye on where things are and continuing to push projects out. So I work very well with Shane, the owner of the company, Simon, who's our production manager. We're a really close-knit team. We really are. And I can't say anything bad about our group. What can I say? I mean, we just have a fantastic team. I've loved working with every single one of them over the years, and I can't give it up. So that's me.
That's fun. That's real fun. That's a great story.
Thank you. I think so too.
Yeah, Jess over on YouTube says, "Isn't the concept of RPGs making stuff up?"
Yes. Absolutely, and I did not lie. I did not make any of that up. So if you were looking for the making stuff up, it wasn't there. So in the Savage Worlds community, I've come to be known as the Queen of Crit Fails. And I have an aura around me. If you ever game with me, either virtually or in person, you will crit fail. I'm just saying. It's not just me who crits fails a lot. And I have had really epic crit fails.
Nice.
But the people around me crit fail. In fact, we had an in-person convention just 2 weeks ago, and in one round at my table, I was game mastering Deadlands. I had 3 people out of 5 who crit failed in the same round. Yes, I love crit fails. I love how you just get to just change everything up right then, right there.
That's good. All right, so we do have a question. It seems like it's mostly it is a Fantasy Grounds directed question. So I'm not sure if you'll have the answer, and I definitely don't on this one. But it's will you start including maps with line of sight in Deadlands adventures?
I believe so. Yes, because when I've played it, you on Fantasy Grounds, you've got the controls as the game master to whether or not you can open up the room and just let them see everything. I guess the best way I can describe it is like when I was playing D&D back in the old days with the graph paper, and you just kind of drew out the cave or whatever, and everybody could see where everything is. Or you can do it with the line of sight where you don't see around the corner until you've moved your character around the corner. And then you've got that arc of visibility. So from what I remember of the last time I played on Fantasy Grounds, yeah, that's absolutely.
Yeah, I think some of the older Deadlands stuff, like the one that we have on sale right now, the Rippers Resurrected, does not support line of sight. Yep, that one right there. However, our new release, Savage Rifts, Savage Foes of North America, that one does include line of sight. So I think newer releases definitely have it. It's just some of those old ones haven't been updated.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because what you have to understand is virtual tabletop has really seen such an explosion in the past 2 to 3 years, mostly because of COVID. But before that, like Smiteworks has been creating the virtual tabletop version of our products since the beginning, since I think almost since 2003, or at least going back to some of our older products like that. So you can find anything pretty much that we've made for Savage Worlds on the Smiteworks on Fantasy Grounds. And it makes sense that when you went and you made this, which came out several years ago, here's the core books for it, by the way, the Game Master's Handbook and the Player's Guide for Rippers, which, oh my gosh. Victorian horror, I absolutely love it. You get to rip the technology of the monsters out of them. Like you grab the teeth out of Dracula, and now you've got teeth and you can bite people with them.
That's cool.
You take the fangs out of, you take the claws out of the werewolf. It's fun times. So it makes sense to me that you wouldn't spend your developers' time going back and updating that, because you want to keep focusing on putting out new product, and that means keeping up with our production schedule, which has gone gangbusters.
Yeah.
So,
I it's like every week I see something new from Savage Worlds.
Yeah. So here's our Rifts box set, which is, obviously in the real here, but the release that you were just talking about is Savage Foes of North America, which is one of the 3 books in this box set, I think. Yes. So this one has the Player's Guide, the Game Master's Handbook, and then Savage Foes of North America is basically your bestiary or bestiary, depending on how you want to pronounce that. I say bestiary because I'm a stickler for spelling, and that makes it easier to spell. So pronounce it bestiary. You won't forget how to spell it. So Rifts I love because it's just so much. Like I'm actually playing in an online game of Rifts right now for testing. Or it was originally a play test for Atlantis and the Demon Seas. And now it's just, we're having fun with it. We can't stop. In our last game, there was one of our the member of our party, played by Candace. She was getting married. So she was having a bachelorette party. And meanwhile, the guys went to the bachelor party, and they had a total, like, the Hangover version of Rifts. Going to, gosh, it was so much fun for us ladies to kind of, like, half the tent, when you split the party, it's a little hard for the GM to wrangle. We had so much fun, Candace and I, sitting there and watching all the fun stuff that the guys were going through. Like, one of them played the Love Interest Adventure deck card on a saber-toothed tiger. How riffs is that? Meanwhile,
That's
us
cool.
ladies joined the Amazons in South America and fought off an entire crew of lizardmen because we rock. And it was the best bachelorette party ever.
I mean, I don't know how you top that.
You really can't.
No.
No.
Not at all. Jess asks, does Pinnacle do their own Fantasy Grounds conversions?
No, actually. We make the books, and then we hand it over to Smiteworks, and then their developers make the versions that you use on for Fantasy Grounds. So the other virtual tabletops that we have available for our products, those are created by our in-house team. And let me tell you, they had a lot of catching up to do. They've done a fantastic job for Foundry and Roll20, and we've been releasing the DIY VTT for those who want to make things themselves. But I mean, Smiteworks, Fantasy Grounds, y'all have been the granddaddy from the very beginning. Like, this is the Cadillac. This is the, you don't need to worry about your quality here because it's just done. Yeah. There's been bug reports that we've had our team jump on, and they've worked through the wee hours of the night trying to address. And I feel like whenever there's something that happens at Smiteworks, it's just, I don't even really hear about it because it doesn't happen. Or if it does, it gets fixed so fast.
Yeah, we're very good about that.
Yeah.
And I know that the people we have that do these conversions, they're very good at getting them done, and getting them done faithfully and accurately.
Yeah. And they play this too. Like, I see the names of the people who work on these. Yeah. And it's like, okay, this conversion was by that guy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. So I guess just because as I mentioned before we started, I've not played Savage Worlds yet. Although I am planning to. As you can see, I've got a Deadlands box set just hanging out back there by my D12.
Let me show you the world.
Yeah, you want to just give us the rundown. Why Savage Worlds?
So what's different about Savage Worlds from, say, Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and maybe some of the other fantasy-oriented games is we have a core system, and in that core system, you then apply a different setting to it. So, for example, I've already showed you Rifts and Rippers. And they both begin with R. That's really the only thing about them that's the same, other than the fact that you use the core Savage Worlds mechanics. In Rippers, we've got the setting rules so that you're embracing the Victorian era. And it's horrific. Actually, both of them are horror. We love horror. We just love to lean into that genre. We don't just do horror, but we do other things too. But both of those have horror in them. So you're going to, like I said, rip the technology out of people. And if you go too far, if you take too much of the monster into you, you become the monster. So, you're walking that line. So we've got the game mechanics in place for that. But each time that we've got these, we call those setting rules, but they're basically like, you take this element and you plug it in. I mean, kind of like if you imagine your PC and you port in, right? Like you've got a USB port, or you've got, whatever thing that you're plugging into it. Same for Rifts. We actually have the license for Rifts from Palladium. They're the original publishers of the setting, and they're still producing content for that setting, doing a fantastic job with it. So, it's a well-loved setting, and it's just amazing. It has fantasy in it. It's got space. It's got it's just got a little bit of everything to it. So if you can imagine it, you can do it in Rifts, really. But then we also have other settings, like, for example, we have the license for Flash Gordon. So I've got that box set too.
That's fun.
Flash. So you want to do your space pulp adventure? There's one of the setting rules, and this one is called interplanetary romance. So every time you land on a planet, you make a die roll to find out if you're going to have a romantic adventure there. Somebody's going to fall in love with you. You're going to fall in love with somebody else. Maybe it's going to be kind of more of just a dalliance. Maybe it's going to be true love. whatever it is, that's a staple in Flash Gordon. So we want that at the table. You're not going to find that in Rippers. Sure, you can. If you know, if romance is your thing, like it is mine, I love it in all of my games, but you don't have to have it in Rippers. So that's not a setting. So those are just some ideas of the different types of settings that you can play with Savage Worlds, but it all comes down to the same core mechanic. Mm-hmm. And for example, in D&D, you roll a D20, you apply modifiers. In our game system, you use all the dice. So D4, D6, D8, D10, D12. The GM uses a D20 behind the screen a couple of times, usually when rolling on the fear table. You don't want that. I mean, I do, but you don't want that.
I probably do.
It's got fun stuff in there, like a heart attack or a minor phobia. Or you get the effects of the Joker and you get inspired and you just like, you go gangbusters, like you get an adrenaline surge. You're going, wow. Yeah. So different things can happen to you on the fear table. So let me explain Jokers for a second. We also don't use that D20 die roll to figure out when your initiative is. We use a standard deck of playing cards. So every single card has a different rank in relationship to another one. You're not going to sit here and say, well, you have a dex of 18 and you have a dex of 18. So now let's look at what other kind of things you've got. No, it's just everybody gets a card. Maybe you've got an edge that gives you 2 cards and you take the best of the 2. Or you've got a hindrance that says, I'm going to take 2 cards and go on the slowest of the 2. So if you get the Joker, however, you get to go whenever you want, and you get +2 to all of your actions. Now, +2 is a modifier that's used in D&D and Pathfinder and other kinds of games, but it's a huge deal in our game system because 4 is your standard target number. So if you need a success, you're generally looking for 4. On a D4, that's a 25% chance. Not bad. And because you're the wild card, you're the hero of the story or the major villain, you get what we call a wild die. So you're going to roll that D4 and a D6 and take the best of the 2. So now the odds of succeeding at that 4 are so much better. And every time you get 4 over that target number, you get what we call a raise. So you've done better at it. So it's not just that you found the clue in this investigation scene. You found a major clue in this investigation scene. Yeah. And then we also have bennies. So bennies are short for benefits, which is a job term used in the United States, usually among like corporate level employees. And, you know, military, I think, also uses that. Anyways, so we call them bennies. They're basically a meta mechanic. Every standard wildcard player starts with 3 of them. And you can spend a Benny to do a reroll. So you have in Dungeons and Dragons, you have lined up all of your attacks. You've got flanking, you've got this bonus, you've got that bonus, and this is the attack that's going to make or break the game, right? And then your dice crap out.
Yep.
Spend a Benny, reroll, get another option, because you're the hero. You should get another option at this. So yeah, you earn bennies by role playing your hindrances. Like, for example, that taking the worst of 2 cards in initiative. And then you can also, during character creation, you can buy points. It's a point buy system, basically. Yeah. So you can buy better edges, that we call them, so that you can get to be cooler and cooler and cooler. Yeah. So in general, it's so easy to run as a GM. It's fast, furious, fun is our tagline. And when you're talking about a complex character, it can still usually fit on like an index card, the entire character sheet. In fact, we've got what we call archetype cards that have the artwork, a slogan for the character, and all the stats for the character. And it's on basically the size of a tarot card, like 3.5 by 5 inches.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That's all you need to play this character. Plus dice. The GM's got to have a deck of cards. You have some sort of a token for bennies. You need your core rules to be able to know what's going on. You can homebrew anything. So I've heard of people like homebrew like a Scooby-Doo Cthulhu.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can just, you can imagine
Yeah.
If you can imagine it, you can definitely play it with Savage Worlds. And I think that's why Flash Gordon is one of our license, while we have the Rifts license, why we have the Pathfinder for Savage Worlds.
I was just going to ask about that, because that's a very, very unusual thing to happen.
Yes. Yeah, there were a lot of people who were floored by that. And so let's look at it from, say, a business point of view, okay? Pathfinder has these really cool stories that they have in their adventure paths, and they have their game system. We are not changing anything about those stories. If you've already played them in those adventure paths, then you pretty much know the story. You've got all the spoilers. But you can play them again using our game system, or maybe you never got into Pathfinder before. I personally am not a very, I guess I call it crunchy.
Yeah, that's how I would describe it.
Yeah. And you can ask my friend Stu. Stu, if you're watching, thank you for decades of adding my modifiers, because when double digits are involved, I can't do it. If it's 12 plus 14, I will sit there and stare at you until I finally get it. I cannot do double digits. But when it's Savage Worlds, you're typically keeping the numbers under 20. So, you know, it's like with the double digit thing on the D20, I'm kind of going, I can't do the math. I know it's not much math. I know that I do this for a living, but I need a calculator. So I like playing those same stories using our rules. And there have been people who've played those stories again using our rules, and they've taken it completely off the rails in a different direction.
Yeah.
Because they've got all the story material for the world of Galarian. And they're like, yeah, but what if we did this? And make their GM think about it in a completely new way.
That's fun.
I love hearing about that. Yeah.
That's really
and
fun.
Pathfinder, Paizo, they love that too. They just want people to play with their world.
Yeah. That's really cool. It is like I said, it's like a really, really rare thing for one role-playing game company to license their setting to a completely different system.
Yeah. And I mean, they're still making great content. They've got Pathfinder Society. They've got Starfinder Society. We don't have an organized playing. I mean, how do you organize it when you've got, you know, homebrew Scooby-Doo Cthulhu, and you've got Rippers, and you've got Flash Gordon, and you've got Rifts? We haven't cracked that nut, and we really just want to focus on making great content. So there are great communities out there for playing Savage Worlds. I think one of those is here at Fantasy Grounds. You can find somebody new to play with, especially with the Fantasy Grounds college people. They are fantastic at helping you learn the system if you're not familiar with it. So I totally recommend try it, you know, and make some new friends and play some new games.
Just a reminder to anyone, if you are interested in coming on and playing some Savage Worlds with Fantasy Grounds, hop in our Discord server. I know we have a channel just dedicated to Savage Worlds. We basically have one for every major system. So hop in and find people to play with. They're here.
Yeah, I had somebody recently reach out to me on Facebook that I know from the local community, and she's like, Jodi, you're a gamer. I'm like, yes, I am. She says, how can I find a group for my son to play in? I was like, honestly, start online, you know, because people are still not getting out in person quite so much. And it's finally easing up here, at least locally in North Carolina. So thank you, God, for that, because we all want to go out and have fun. But you can meet people online, kind of figure out what their quirks are, for using a Savage Worlds term. But you kind of let go like, okay, I can hang with that kind of a quirk, and be like, let's meet in person. Let's try this in person. Yeah. And I know also some people who use Fantasy Grounds in their in-person games to run the combat, because it's just already laid out for them.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. Maybe it makes me a fake gamer, but it's easier.
How are you a fake gamer for gaming, right?
Right, I guess that's fair. That's a good way to put it. But like that is like the whole reason why I started using Fantasy Grounds was it handled all the stuff that I don't like about playing role-playing games, which is the math, because I totally agree with you. I'm really bad at doing those quick math, especially when they start getting up into like the adding 2 double-digit numbers together, and you have to do it quickly because the rest of your group is sitting there going, come on, hurry up, hit the dragon already.
I mean, Stu literally looks at my dice and he tells me the answer before I've even registered what those numbers are. Thank you, Stu.
Yeah, we had someone in our game for that, and then we all switched to Fantasy Grounds. Lord Entrails, he's over on Twitch, asks, hey Judy, it's been a long time since I've checked, but you speak about Carolina game tables, but can you speak about Carolina game tables and if they've started making digital tables that we can use with Fantasy Grounds?
I can absolutely talk about Carolina game tables. Also, your name is Lord Entrails. Creepy, and I love it. So
it's a good name.
So in addition to being the COO and managing editor for Pinnacle, like I said, I just can't give it up because it is so much fun. Mm-hmm. Clint and I also own Carolina game tables. So we make the kind of tables you will sit around in person for playing gaming with your friends. And they also do double duty as a dining room table, coffee table, kitchen table, whatever. So you can look us up, carolinagametable.com. I didn't come here to talk about that, but I'm always going to answer the questions about it. So we don't add any, we don't do any digital components. Sorry. If you want that, I recommend you look at some of the YouTube videos that are out there by our customers. They have made cases for flat screens that they will put into our table and then take out when they don't need them. That way they can still use the table for board gaming, all of the little meeples and stuff that you don't let them go rolling all over the table. And then when they want to have like a touch screen or just a flat screen or whatever kind of digital technology rocks your boat, trust me, we cannot keep up. And our factory surely couldn't. So we don't do anything, but we do provide is a DIY capable, table. So it's completely hardwood. You can drill through it. You won't run into any hardware. I'll tell you where the hardware is, no problem. It's very easy to adapt. So that's what I say, for people who are looking for the digital tables. Also, there are people out there who make digital tables. If you don't want to go through the DIY stuff out there, I'd rather you go look for those, and I can point you to a few rather than be unhappy. So just let me know. But that's not something we're going to embrace as a company. We would have to get the entire factory UL certified, and we're not doing that because the factory we work with also makes, say, end tables for another company and china cabinets for another company, and they don't need electronics for any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So we're not going to pay for that. That doesn't make good business sense for us. But thank you for asking, Lord Entrails.
Yep, Lord Entrails says your tables are beautiful, great craftsmanship, and thanks for answering.
Yeah, thank you.
Once again, questions are completely open to chat. So if you have any questions about Pinnacle, Savage Worlds, any of the settings, feel free to drop those into chat on whatever platform you're watching on. I will see them.
That's right.
And we can answer them.
And while you're waiting for other questions and stuff, you've got yours up on the back shelf there behind you. But I thought I'd bring another one a little bit closer here and talk about Deadlands, which has been our flagship product. Mm-hmm. So by flagship product, like, what do you mean by that? I mean, kind of like for Paizo, it's Pathfinder, right? So Deadlands actually predates Savage Worlds. It was something that Pinnacle was making before we made Savage Worlds. We've been making Deadlands for 25 years. We've recently celebrated the 25th anniversary on that. We actually got together in person in Deadwood, South Dakota last summer.
Oh, that's really
for
fun.
A small, like, VIP kind of level experience. We had so much fun, like, no idea. We got to play a lot of Deadlands. We got to wear, cowboy hats. We got to go to the reenactment of the shooting of Wild Bill. We got to just walking up and down the street in Deadwood was so cool. And by the way, the Black Hills of South Dakota in August, totally recommend it. It's just such a wonderful temperature and so dry. And anyways, we want to go back. I just want to say that. But for Deadlands, the setting is the Weird West. So think cowboys, right? But undead gunslinger, which has now become such a trope that like it's its own thing. We were doing the undead gunslinger before anybody else. And there are times that people will message me going, have you seen there's somebody who's doing this thing and it's called Dead Space Lands? What are you going to do? And we're like, we can't stop people for thinking about undead gunslingers just like we did. Sorry.
I'm sorry. It is an objectively cool concept.
It is. And it has been such a cool concept that, it's been out there for a while. And we've got big plans for the property, but there's always something in the works for it. Right now, we have Hell on the High Plains, which was our recent Kickstarter, and it will be up on our website, peginc.com, soon, so that you can join in as a late backer, or really pre-order backer. We don't want to say late backer, but anyway, so that will be up on our site soon. So sign up for our newsletter if you still want to join in on that. With more material, basically, for the Weird West. So, fantastic. Deadlands is my game of choice when I go for game mastering. I love it.
That's fun. I'm really excited to play it. Like I said, I haven't had a chance yet, but I went and bought the box set, even though I know I'm going to run it in Fantasy Grounds. But I'm one of those people, I really like to read through the books physically rather than reading through them on my computer. I just find it easier. So I'm really, really excited. I think the thing that honestly excites me the most is the way that magic is handled.
Yes. So we've got different arcane backgrounds. There's the one that we did most recently for this new version of Deadlands that has never existed in any of the other versions of Deadlands is the arcane background to play a witch. I love this because if you're familiar with our Deadlands history, there was all of these rail barons that were vying in the Great Rail Wars to try to build the first, basically, link to the Pacific. And I won't give away who won, but you can read the book for yourself and you'll figure it out. One of the rail barons, Black River Railroad, is run by an honest-to-goodness witch by the name of Mina Devlin. And her agents, basically the highest ranking members of her crew, are known as the Wichita Witches. And these badass women are clad all in black. They've got a black mask on, and they are so much fun to play. And they featured in our graphic novel called The Cackler, which kind of was our stepping stone from the previous edition of Deadlands called Deadlands Reloaded to this edition of Deadlands called Deadlands The Weird West. So she featured as one of the main characters in that, well, really one of the main characters. Cackler, I guess, should be the main character, but to me, she's the main character. Anyways, so you get to actually play a witch. So when you make a spellcasting roll, for example, you can you pick up the dice, you make your roll, and then you're basically bartering your soul. So there's always a chance that you're going to become more and more corrupt. Mm-hmm. And then if you hit too much corruption, of course, you become the GM NPC because you've gone too far. But you can always take that corruption back by lowering the fear level in the area. So raising the fear level is what the bad guys want to do, what the Reckoners want to do. They want to convert the entire world into a Deadland, make everybody scared as possible. And so this is your way to fight the darkness as basically one of the people with the darkness inside of them. So I'd have so much fun playing a witch. I just do. And then there's other arcane backgrounds out there. Now, you might have heard of the Huckster. Mm-hmm. So the Huckster uses playing cards. And the Huckster still gambles with their soul, but they do it because they read Hoyle's Book of Cards, and they've our Book of Games, and they have figured out the arcane secrets that are inside there. And so you're using these cards as like a way to communicate with the Manitous, the spirits in the hunting grounds, to bargain for their power. The Manitous love playing games, by the way, with your head, and sure, they'll play a game of cards with you if you just ask. So in the game, mechanic-wise, you can just make the roll and try to and use your power points, and it's just like, you know, hit points, whatever. You're taking those tokens or making marks on your character sheet. You're just knocking it down. Or you deal out an honest to goodness deck of hands, or deck of cards, and you try to make the best hand possible. This is called dealing with the devil. And if you make a really good hand, then you get enough power points right in that instant to be able to get the spell off. And meanwhile, you know, bullets are flying and everything's happening, and your little huckster is just kind of like, I'm just going to flip these cards in front of my face, and yep, I've got the power points, and then shoot out a bolt of energy or whatever kind of game mechanic you want to make it look like. But if it goes wrong, oh, you know it goes wrong. It goes so horribly, horribly wrong. So I love that. There are people who've said, in the new Deadlands, you don't get to use cards like you used to. No, you still can. It's just an option. Before, you had to use cards, I think, in Deadlands Classic. So now it's an option. So anyways, I hope if there was anybody out there who was asking that question mentally, then I just answered it.
Answer them before they're asked.
I mean, we get those questions a lot when we go to conventions. We hear that, get emails, see these questions on Facebook or on our forums. Yeah,
that sounds like one of those. With it being an option, that sounds like one of those. If you want to use the cards more, tell your game master. That's what you want out of the game.
Yeah, and then again, also with 25 years of Deadlands, I have people who come up to me and they say, "I've played Deadlands," and I'll be like, "Which kind?" And they said, "Oh, the old one." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm just going to have to play this game of which old one did you mean? Because we started out with Deadlands Classic, our Shane's own game mechanic, which involved a lot of dice, but otherwise it's pretty much Savage Worlds. So if you played Classic and you're leery of trying Savage Worlds, you might as well try it. It's the exact same thing. It's just you don't use as many dice. And then we had D20 in there for a while in the 90s. The D20 splat craze caught us too. And trust me, we had a lot of those books for a while. We're finally starting to whittle down the numbers. And then we did Deadlands Reloaded with with Savage Worlds when it came out. And now we call it SWADE Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. That's the most recent version of our Savage Worlds core rules, and the most recent version of Deadlands is called Deadlands The Weird West. So not Deadlands Reloaded, that was the older version. Before that is Deadlands Classic. Whether it's D20 or Classic, it's like Classic Coke. It's like, which Classic Coke are you talking about? What do you mean?
All right, we actually do have a couple of questions. First, I want to say, Icy Bison, thank you for following over on Twitch. We did get this one did get answered by someone in chat, but I feel it's important to get it read on stream and answered there. Hi, Jodi. It is great that you took the time to share with the community. Are there any plans to re-release Tropicana, and will Monster Hunters Club be available on Fantasy Grounds as well?
So those are licensee products, not Pinnacle products. But I would like to say that we love our licensees. We owe a large part of the community and how wonderful it is because of all of these licensee companies who've created great product like that, like Monster Hunters Club and Tropicana, and I mean, you just name it. And then there's also fan-made products out there, you know, like Savage Eberron, which some people think it is a licensee product. It is made by a licensee, but I think due to the nature of the license, which they did get from the owner, you know, anyways. So yeah, there's lots of ways you can license our stuff. We also have the swag program, which is on DriveThruRPG. It's just a click through, submit it kind of thing. You can make your own content. You don't need approval from us. You just publish it, and we let capitalism take its course. So if it's really good, then it swims to the top. And I think that might have been how Tropicana, well, at least the people who make Tropicana kind of got some of their start. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great resource. Go check it out. And you might as well, if you've got some kind of genius idea, write it up, submit it. The only downside is it's there forever, and maybe you sell 2 products and made 50 cents. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Got another question. S. Mason on YouTube asks, how hard is it to convert Deluxe rules content to SWADE rules?
So when you are running it, there is a little bit of you might as well just read the new book, because there is a conversion guide that's on our website. You can download it. You can look it over. It'll tell you this equals this now. There's a few notable things that are missing now, like charisma. We just took that out of the middle math, and we apply those modifiers directly to persuasion, intimidation, that sort of thing. So, I just recommend people just read the new book with fresh eyes. You'll learn it so much faster. And then, of course, play it and download the resource material, like the help sheets and that sort of thing. We had a lot of that material during our initial Kickstarter. Some of it is available for free on our website. Just go trolling through it or ask on our incredibly helpful communities, because they're all wonderful. Say, hey, I'm just getting started. What are some of the best resources that have worked for you? And they'll probably link you straight to the page so you can download it for yourself.
Fun.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what I love about this is we get to meet so many cool people like you. Thank you, Bryce. And
I'm glad
all
I qualify
the people
as cool.
You qualify as cool. And all the people who have joined us in the chat, the people that we meet at the conventions, the people who have decided to take our rules and make something cool and unique with them. I mean, just when you think that everything has been done, somebody comes up with something new. And
like Scooby-Doo Cthulhu.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or I mean, like, I can't even imagine. There's always something cool and unique happening that makes you kind of go, wait, what? So I just have to say thank you to everybody who has helped us get to this point. We recognize your contribution to this community, because we would never be in this place if it weren't for you. And thank you.
Yeah, once again, thank you, Mason, for asking. Once again, you have any questions, feel free to ask. Can be about anything, Savage Worlds, Fantasy Grounds, any of that related. You get bonus points if it's related to both.
That's right.
I don't know what you can spend these points on. Tell your game master you get an extra Benny. That's
right. That's exactly how see, Bryce, you're learning.
Yep.
That is exactly how you would bribe your GM into giving you new bennies.
That's what I tell people all the time for their Dungeons and Dragons is I'll be like, "Oh, just tell your DM that I said you get advantage." On your first roll of the night. It almost never works, but it's really funny.
When Clint signs books, sometimes he will sign, use of this book at the table gives you a free Benny. Show it to your GM.
That's I would totally honor that. I'd be like, yeah, that is honored.
Yep. And he did this one thing to one of our friends who runs or owns the company Pirate Press LLC, who makes Battle for Oz. So imagine, Dorothy, Wizard of Oz, dark, twisted, after Dorothy, all of this stuff. It's so horrific. I love it. Anyway, so Dan's book actually says whenever a Joker comes up for the, no matter who it's for, everybody gets a Benny. Oh. So he still honors that. So that's not in the rules. What happens is if the Joker comes up on the side for the GM, only the GM gets an extra Benny. If the Joker comes up on the side of the players, not only does the player get the benefits of the Joker, everybody on your allies, they all get bennies.
That's cool.
They get a free benny then. And
yeah, I would be like, yeah, I can't argue with that. It's in the book, literally.
Literally in the book.
It got written in the book, so that is now a new rule for that table. We got another question. Hi, Jodi. Are we close to a new version of Fantasy Companion?
Fantasy Companion, absolutely. Yes. If you missed the news, we announced Tuesday in our newsletter, and it's gone out on our socials. So if you have not been following those, please do, or sign up for our newsletter. April 5th, mark the date. We are launching our next
close.
Game Changer.
That's really soon.
Yeah. That is when we launch the next Game Changer on our website. That's what we call our crowdfunding platform that's on our own website. So we are doing that for the Fantasy Companion and Assorted products. So I hope you will join us that day and pledge your support. You'll get in early for the Fantasy Companion, either in digital format or in physical format. And then we always throw in lots of extra goodies as thank you for helping us, reach that goal early. So we are still in the planning stages of the Game Changer itself, but the book itself, I mean, that's underway. That is closer to being done than you can imagine. So we try to get our books almost done, like I'd say 80% done, like in layout, most of the art, that kind of thing, before we launch anything on crowdfunding platforms. So we don't wait for the money to come in before we start. We'd never get anything out if we did.
Yeah. And then there was a second part to that same question of any idea when we're going to see a fiction and horror version for SWADE?
A fiction and horror version, like a line just for fiction? Yes, we do. So we also recently made the announcement that we are in partnership, and we have a new line called Outrider. And if you can go to our website, you'll find it in there. Hopefully you'll soon start seeing more information from that. They are going to be running their own crowdfunding projects to be able to fund things. The first thing they're going to do is to reprint a graphic novel series that's been out of print now for, I guess, 5 years, maybe 10. I've been in this for a long time. I'm sorry.
It all starts to blur together.
It does. What is today? It's Blur's Day. So yeah, it's been out of print for way too long, and we want to get those graphic novels back into print first. And then we definitely have new fiction on the line. They're looking at the Rippers line. We definitely have like a novel lined up for that. We have short fiction that's lined up. You remember if you've seen our Wendigo tales, they are going to pick up the torch on that and continue carrying it forward. So we've got more short fiction coming out for that. We also have, if you're into audiobooks, we've got a line for audiobooks. So go to Sound Booth Theater. So we got legs, baby. We are all over the place.
You got everything over there.
That's right.
S. Mason, we're gonna jump back to the previous part of that question because S. Mason asked for the Fantasy Companion thing. Does that include a Fantasy Grounds version, or will there be a Fantasy Grounds version?
Of course, there will be a Fantasy Grounds version. I mean that. I don't work at Smiteworks, so I can't tell them what to do, but I think that they would be one of the first people to be begging me for that PDF and all the information in it, like usual. So yeah. There will be.
There will almost certainly, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm told I shouldn't give any absolutes, so I'll leave it at that.
Exactly. That's right. Not especially with a worldwide pandemic and all, things just kind of go a little crazy. And
you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you never know. But I will say that it is our earnest desire that they do so, and knowing Doug as well as I do, that it is his as well.
I know that Savage Worlds is one of our big sellers. And just in sheer amount of books, it might be the most. There's so much Savage Worlds content on Fantasy Grounds.
Like, I don't know exactly how many. So in the retail world, you use the SKU thing. So I don't know exactly how many SKUs you guys have at Smiteworks for us, but we have thousands of SKUs. thousand. We more than 1,000. I'll just put it that way. More than 1,000. So that's one reason why we went to hosting a crowdfunding campaign on our own site. That's what I mentioned the game changer for. So it's like Kickstarter, it's like Indiegogo, it's like Game on Tabletop, except for it's on pinnacleentertainmentgroup.com, PEGINC.com, and this will be the 4th time we've used this plugin. And we are packaging it to sell it to other RPG creators or other creators who want to run crowdfunding campaigns on their own WordPress platforms. So we're not at the point yet ready for selling that, but it's been a godsend because you can add anything from our store there. So if you want like an old copy of our science fiction companion to ship with your new horror companion, you can do that. You can add an old copy of Savage Worlds Deluxe to that and a new copy of Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. Like if we were doing this on any other crowdfunding campaign platform, you would spend hours trying to input all of those SKUs as options. We don't have to do that here. And for those of you who run platforms, you kind of get what a big deal that is. Those of you who don't and you just like back Kickstarters and stuff, you probably don't see the value of that. But at least I want you to know that it means that we're not paying an extra part of our income to Kickstarter or to any of those other platforms. You're supporting the publisher directly. And thank you. We appreciate it.
Belmerte asks, for the Kickstarter, will there be a level where I can get my face in another book?
No. Sorry,
No.
Belmorte. We used to do those kind of personalized levels many years ago, especially with like Deadlands Noir, I think you're probably referring to. And honestly, it's just too hard to keep up with. And there are licensees who do that. But in fact, I think I backed the Battle for Oz Kickstarter so I could get my face into the book. But,
Fun.
but as far as Pinnacle Entertainment goes, we're not going to do individualized Kickstarter reward levels like that. For one thing, we just don't know what kind of value add to put on that. Do we go with the we're all that and it's going to cost you $5,000? You know, we don't take ourselves that, I don't know, seriously. It just doesn't, I don't think that we'd feel like we could come up with a fair price for that. Yeah. So, yeah. And also from previous experience, we'll email those people and we'll try to follow up with them for months at a time and try to get art direction back from them and, get back and forth on like, how do you want this monster to look or whatever? And it's not your job. You don't have to answer that email very quickly or get back to us very quickly and you don't think about it. But it halts our production and slows things down. So we don't want to slow things down. Many apologies to those of you who want to be that involved in our creation, but we just can't allow it because it slows everything down and it creates more work for us. Sorry.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I hope so. Because I don't want to make people feel like we don't like them, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But that does totally make sense. Well, we've still got a few minutes, but we're starting to get close to our time, so it's a good time to get any of your last minute questions in. But one thing I want to say, because I was super impressed when it showed up, was my Deadlands box set. I have to say, and I will go on the record saying this is the best RPG box set I've ever opened.
Wow. Thank you.
I haven't opened that many, but it was, first off, all of the pieces in it feel quite high quality, which is shockingly rare these days. And the amount of stuff. Like I got it and I held the book and was impressed with how like hefty it is. It has got everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna open this one up, which I don't know that I had. So this is like the poster map.
Oh, and the poster map, it's beautiful.
Yep, and extra power cards just for some of those powers infernal devices that you can hand out to people so they can get their mechanical mule with all of their
Why wouldn't you want
stats
a
on them.
mechanical mule?
Yep. And like, here's our archetype cards. I apologize for any glare. They're still in the shrink wraps. So
yeah.
Actually, that's not the archetype cards for this box set. Sorry, that's from the from our blood drive one. But this is, so that's literally all you need to know to play a character, front and back. You've got.
They're starting to go a little invisible because of the green screening, but we get the idea. The ammo counters, I thought those were an amazing addition.
Yep, little like shotgun, ammo counters there, and also PowerPoint counters. You can spin the dial and say, okay, I spent 3 PowerPoints on this boost lower trait, but it helped a lot of people. And of course, your pack of dice with the wild die in it that has the cow skull on it.
Yeah, I thought it was a quite well done box set. I was very, very impressed.
Thank you. And we've got
and the book too. The book is quite nicely printed.
Yeah. And we were hoping that it wouldn't be too terribly big. No,
it's like just the right size.
Yeah. When it's too big, you can't open it to the right page without it looking like you're doing this.
I can say I won't name which games, but I've definitely bought books that are way too big to ever use to read comfortably.
This is the empty box. So we put, it's just like a little detail, but we took the map and we printed it on the inside, and then we've got little compartments for everything.
It was it was the best box set I've ever opened.
That's all Simon. I got to tell you, he's the one who has to do the measuring on like this will fit in here, and actually I should say that Simon and Jess, but so yeah, and then these little like spacers here, and
it was it's a very, very good sign when opening up the package is fun. When opening it up just seeing what's inside is enjoyable. That's how you know you have a good product.
Also, those spacers give you room so you can put your copy of Savage Worlds Adventure Edition in this box and close it.
Oh, that's fun. I actually don't have a copy of Savage Worlds Adventure Edition besides my Fantasy Grounds copy.
How are you going to play our game, dude?
I know, right? Well, I have it. So I do have it for Fantasy Grounds. But,
there's PDFs.
Yeah, but no, none of my local game stores sell it, and I'm lazy, so I haven't ordered it yet.
Actually, the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition book is out of print right now because shipping containers. Sorry.
Yeah, that would make sense.
It will be back in stock for retail in June, I think. So Although
to be fair, when I asked them, they were like, "No, we don't carry Savage Worlds." And then they had like a single like old Deadlands book. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but like that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah, sometimes I'll see like some of the like Deadlands Classic or D20 books, and they're still the original price and that kind of thing, and I'm like, okay.
That should maybe be not. Yeah.
Now, if it's our 25th edition, 25th anniversary edition of Deadlands Classic, which we did as a Kickstarter, and we completely colorized the art, and it looks fantastic. You can't find that. It is out of print. We don't have it. Don't email me, because I get those, and I have to tell you, I'm sorry, we don't have it. It really is out of print. If you look on eBay, I think it's going for, $200, $300.
It sounds like it would probably be going for a lot.
So yeah. Thank you so much for the praise on our box sets. We do try to go for quality, and we also try to go for like a very sturdy box itself, because it looks nice on the shelf when you're trying to organize all those little bits and stuff.
A used one is like $275.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry.
I might have to go try and track one of those down now, because that looks really cool.
I mean, check like used bookstores, because you'd never know where you're going to find one, and they just don't know what it's going for. Yeah. Find 2, sell 1. There you go.
Yep, exactly. That's how you get rich.
That's right.
All right, and I think we had one more question. It was again about a horror companion.
Okay, so the horror companion is in the lineup for after the fantasy companion. So I won't say where, because we have an idea of where things are.
Yeah.
But production schedules tend to jockey around depending on who's working on what, when the art comes in, when that artist is available, that sort of thing. So we really only like to announce our next crowdfunding project when we're kind of done with the first crowd, so we do a rolling schedule of like what's coming up next, but we try not to announce it any further ahead than that. We don't want to throw anybody under the bus if say they've had a death in the family or other unfortunate circumstances. So we appreciate it if y'all understand.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're getting really, really close. We're basically at time. I'll see if anybody wants to sneak a question in. If they do, I'll ask it. But I do want to. I want to thank you, Jodi, for coming in and talking to me and talking to all of us.
Not a problem.
So thank you for
getting the
being
chance
here.
to talk with new people and getting a chance to hang out with you today. It's definitely one of the highlights of my day.
Yeah, that is honestly that's my favorite part of this job, is just getting to talk to people about things I love, even if it's games that I haven't played yet, but I know that I will.
Yeah.
But just getting to talk about something so fun is amazing.
And like when you sit down finally to play the game, like now know some of the basics, right?
Yeah.
You're going to need all the dice. The GM will have a deck of cards. Don't look at that weird. It's fine. And the
that's
GM.
me. I'm a forever GM.
Yeah. So, this is really the only game that I've ever tried to game master. Because I've always been a player, and so never really picked it up except for this. And then finally I just had so many cool ideas. How could I stop? Right.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that our community is just so welcoming that you can sit down at any Savage Worlds table, I hope, and get a warm reception. And you don't need to feel like you need to know everything about the rules before you sit down. You can just learn it as you go. And honestly, when I run demos in our booth, I usually can teach you everything you need to know in about 20 minutes. So it's not a hard system to pick up. It's just, you learn like what you need to know for your character, just like with any game. And then as a game master, you just kind of learn everything. But it's easier, and you can also you learn the philosophy of the game and then figure it out from there. If somebody comes up to you and they're like, well, what kind of modifier is this? And it's like, well, I don't want to look at the chart. It feels like a -2. Let's just go with that. Yeah. It's fine. Go with that.
Honestly, those are my favorite types of RPGs, is the ones that you can teach people while you're playing. Nothing is worse than someone like, oh, I really want to play this game with you. And then you're like, all right, here's a stack of rule books. You got to read these before Saturday.
That's right.
It's much easier to just say, we'll just teach you while we play. It's real easy.
Yeah. Or like, well, just tell me what you want to do. What's kind of going through your head. Like if you were watching this as a movie, how would your character react right now?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I want to jump up and grab the chandelier and swing across the room and then kick that guy in the face. It's like, all right, let me tell you what we're going to do. Yeah. But you're going to roll dice. That's all you're going to do,
Yeah. Those are my favorites. All right. Well, I think that's it for this Fantasy Grounds Fridays. So once again, thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you, Jodi, for coming in and talking with us. Everyone, remember, go check out peginc.com and remember, I'm trying to remember all the stuff I'm supposed to say at the end of these. It's a struggle every time. Come join the Fantasy Grounds Discord server, especially if you want to get in some games. We've got a whole bunch of channels that are just dedicated to different systems, so you can come in and just start talking about your favorite systems. I know we're kicking up some organized play stuff, so if that's your thing, we've got that. In fact, I believe next week we're Fantasy Grounds Fridays. We're talking to the guy who's hosting all of our organized play stuff. So come on and talk with that. And I wanted to just do a quick reminder for everyone that tomorrow night is our actual play show, Fabled Dice. It's finally coming back after being gone for a week. So come and see what happens to the party while they're lost in the Amber Temple in Barovia. Boy, do I love Ravenloft. Ravenloft is my total favorite.
Yeah.
All right.
You had me at horror. Okay.
Yes. Yes, I've got some map stream. I do not believe there will be a map stream tomorrow. But hopefully very soon. And we are going to, if you're on Twitch, to end this stream out, we're going to go raid Valid Gamer, who is playing, looks like D&D 5e using Fantasy Grounds. So
swords up. Let's go raid.
Yep. Get your swords out. Get your what emotes do we what emote would be good for this?
Usually just see the swords, and then they show up with shields.
That's fun.
Anyways,
that's fun. Get your crits ready. I don't know if I can't remember if crits are for everyone or if crits are like a tier 1. Anyway, that's it. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Oh wait, I think I accidentally canceled the raid somehow.
Oh no! Can you restart it?
I'll wait. There we go.
And we're on the raid again, warding on the warpath again.
I don't even know how that happened. All right. We'll see you tomorrow for Fabled Dice. Have a good rest of your night, everyone. Thank you, Jodi.
Thank you.